What's up again, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the most essential ninja cards in Welcome to Rathe. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I just haven't really had as much time to sit down and make one of these types of videos versus the gameplay videos that I've been making for Flesh and Blood and Dice Masters and that sort of thing. But I'm excited to talk about this class and these essential cards for the ninja class here within Welcome to Rathe. I think this is a great series for new players to watch all the way through from all of these different videos and classes to know what kinds of cards you should be excited about when you're opening this set, and what kinds of cards you might want to go and buy and purchase and put together into decks so that you can make some strong or make some very functional, like really streamlined deck lists. And I think that I've got a good list of ninja cards here. I think it's very strange to talk about ninja with just talking about Welcome to Rathe, because there are so many good ninja cards in Crucible of War, and ninja itself is just a kind of a very flexible class with regards to like hero numbers. We have like 3 different heroes that you could play. Ninja is strong in both formats, in Blitz and in Classic Constructed. So taking all of that into account, I've got a list here of cards here within Welcome to Rathe that you're going to want to get your hands on. And we start talking with the Mask of Momentum. Mask of Momentum is a legendary headpiece. It says once per turn effect, when an attack action card you control is the 3rd or higher chain link in a row to hit, draw a card. It also has Blade Break, so if you defend with this at all, even though it defends for 2, the moment this defending step ends, or like the damage resolution step has reached its conclusion, Mask of Momentum just explodes. It disappears. It can block for 2, but then it's gone completely. And so you may think, okay, it draws you a card, which is really powerful in this game if you can get it to hit 3 times in a row, right? If that's what you can do, then you can draw a card, but it goes away if you block with it. So it is kind of fragile in that sense. But you could go like Kodachi, attack with your harmonized Kodachi, which is 1 attack, and if that hits, then you attack with a second Kodachi, and if that hits, then you can attack with an attack action card, and if that one hits, you draw a card. And so when we boil all of that down, you're left with a card that is very good if it actually triggers. Drawing you a card is very powerful, but doesn't trigger often, because oftentimes people will either block the second Kodachi, or they'll block the big attack that you make, or the ninja attack action card that you play 3rd. And because of that, this card is borderline not essential, which is a weird thing to say, because it really, in my mind, it really is essential, because what you're doing, you may not get the trigger here on Mask of Momentum very often at all, but what you're doing is you're threatening it every single time, and that makes your opponent think, okay, do I need to block the second harmonized Kodachi to break up the chain of hits in a row, because I think they're going to play something that I just can't really deal with very well as an attack action card on the 3rd hit? If so, then I'm basically blocking a 1 point of damage with a card from hand or a piece of equipment, and that may not be how they want to use their equipment or their card from hand. And if that's the case, if that's what you're doing, you're constantly threatening this, then you're making your opponent play differently because of that. And for that reason, this card has seen mass amounts of play. If you are playing competitively, either Blitz or Classic Constructed, you're probably playing this card, and you're not doing it to block, you're not doing it oftentimes to draw a card, but just to threaten your opponent that you could draw a card. And drawing cards, especially in Ninja, is very powerful, because card advantage just means you can go wider and wider and wider. Ninja is a class that wants to go wide, and this lets you do that to a certain degree, or it lets you threaten to do that. And so this card is essential in my mind. That being said, if you don't have one like I did for a long time, you can run things in place of it. So it's really up to you to make the decision. Do you want to pay the money to buy a Mask of Momentum, or do you want to just play other things that oftentimes do a lot of the same stuff, like block for 1? That's kind of what Mask of Momentum does most times, because most of your opponents that you're going to play aren't going to let you get a card off of this effect. Okay, now we get to talk about another piece of equipment, and I don't think I did this in the other videos, but I'm going to in this one because breaking scales is super good. You almost always run breaking scales as a ninja player. Breaking scales is a ninja arm equipment. It blocks for 1, which is already good. It's basically iron rot at this point, and it says attack reaction. So during that reaction step, you can play this, or you can do this effect. Destroy breaking scales. Target attack action card with combo gains +1 attack. It also has battle worn, so you can block with this one time before you use its effect, and it'll stick around. It won't just like explode like Mask of Momentum does. This card is super good, especially because if you're playing Classic Constructed, the only choice is Katsu. Katsu's all about playing combo cards, and so you're going to be running combo cards no matter what. Breaking Scales is a natural fit. If your opponent blocks evenly with a combo card and you want to continue the combo chain, and you're relying on this card to hit in order to do that, well, you just pop your Breaking Scales and it gets +1 and you're good to go. This card is very, very good in Blitz as well, particularly if you're playing like Katsu Blitz, though not many people do that. It's good as well if you're playing combo lines in Benji or combo lines in... why did I blank on our girl's name? Ira. There we go. If you're playing combo lines in Ira, though, I think most people... You do play a few combo. Do you play the combo line? I can't remember off the top of my head. If you do, though, this is perfect fit, right? Plus, it also just blocks for 1. This is one you would swap out for Null Rune if you're playing against somebody with arcane damage. You just put on arcane barrier in as well in place of this, but you keep it around because it does a beneficial thing. It just lets you vault over it, and it makes your opponent have to play around the possibility of +1ing something. So it's a good card. You should definitely get one. It's a common. Grab it. It's super cheap. It's like 20 cents or something dumb like that. If you have the ability to get a rainbow foil one, go for that rainbow foil. Okay, the next card we're going to talk about is Ancestral Empowerment. This is a Majestic in the Welcome to Rathe set. This card goes into literally every ninja deck, and I don't know why you wouldn't run it because it does exactly what a ninja wants to do. It's a 0-cost action card. Blocks for 3, and it says target ninja attack action card gains +1 attack. So again, it just gives +1 attack. Oh, by the way, it also draws you a card, so it replaces itself. That is the best part of this, is that you can buff your attack and you can replace this card with possibly a piece of the combo chain. This goes in literally every archetype of ninja. It goes into Ira, and you can just tack on an extra point of damage somewhere. It goes into Benji, do the same exact thing. In fact, it's oftentimes really, really good in Benji, especially because you can play like a big attack, and you know, like they have to finally be able to block it because, you know, Benji does that thing where it says you can't block. They're like, yeah, I blocked it completely, and then you're just like, Ancestral Empowerment. Okay, keep going, draw a card. Or even you play a 1 attack and they can't block it, and then you buff it to 2 attack, and it's just free 2 attack, which is really good. This card's great. Goes into Katsu, of course, because duh. In fact, it's even Katsu on the picture, right? Katsu is literally walking through the mists of his ancestors, and that's cool. So you get this card. I would grab 3 of these cards. I would never think otherwise. This card's great. Okay, so now these next 2 cards that I'm going to talk about, and I may as well talk about them like concurrently. I don't know, just because in Welcome to Rathe, these cards are Majestic and Super, and they're 2 of the bigger cards in the set for Ninja, namely because in this set you were just playing as Katsu, and Katsu's the classic constructed hero, so I think these are the combo lines that you lean into for him. This is Lord of Wind, and you know, we might as well just say it, Mugenshi Release as well. Lord of Wind is a Majestic, and Mugenshi Release is a Super. Lord of Wind costs 0 and says it's a Katsu specialization, so you can only play this with Katsu, which is an important thing to note. If you're thinking of only playing Ninja for Blitz, and you're going to play like Ira or Benji, you can't use this line, and you can't use Mugenshi Release either, which is a thing we should take into account. It is a downside to these cards, but I do think they're essential because if you ever plan on playing Classic Constructed, this is a combo line that people put into because of these powerful cards. So Lord of Wind says combo. If Mugenshi Release was the last attack this combat chain, you can pay X resources as an additional cost to play Lord of Wind. And if you do, you shuffle X target cards with the name Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave, and or Mugenshi Release from your graveyard into your deck, then this gains plus X. So in other words, if you're playing the combo line that uses Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave, which of course you are because you're also putting Mugenshi Release and Lord of Wind into your deck, and you've used some of those cards, let's say this is somewhere in the middle of the game, if you shuffle those cards from your graveyard into your deck, you're giving this +5, and you're also giving yourself cycle, right? You're filling your deck back up with cards that are good, that are powerful to play, and that cycle with each other. So this is a card that is oftentimes used in constructed ninja decks and constructed Katsu decks, and this is like one of the main, if not the main lines, the main combo line of ninja. And so if you're going to play Constructed Ninja, you should grab these. Now, if you're not going to play Constructed Ninja, you don't have to grab Lord of Winds. Speaking of Mugenshi Release, because that's kind of comboed along with Lord of Wind, Mugenshi Release is also a Katsu specialization. It costs 1, it attacks for 4, whereas Lord of Wind just attacks for 2 and is really looking for you to trigger the combo effect. This one you could play straight up, which is kind of nice. Plus, if you do, then you can fetch it with Lord of Wind later if you have another Mugenshi Release. This one has combo as well. It says if Whelming Gust Wave was the last attack this combat chain, Mugenshi Release gets +1, go again, and if it hits, search your deck for any number of cards named Lord of Wind, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So basically this finds Lord of Wind for you and finishes the combat chain, or the combo chain, excuse me, which is nice. These cards are super good. A 5, go again, and fetching you the final piece of the combo chain is really solid. I mean, that card is like so good. So if you're playing Blitz Katsu, or if you're playing Constructed Katsu, this is just a power combo line. So you get your hands on these cards and you just jam them into whatever else you want to put around it. The cards we're kind of going through are basically just all going to be great to put into a deck. Now there's a few exceptions that I'm looking at right now that you may not actually put into the deck as well, but these are all great cards. And while we're at it, just go ahead and get Surging Strikes and Whelming Gust Waves, because the way Ninja works is you start a combo chain and you keep the combo chain going ad nauseum because they feed each other, and Katsu goes and fetches those. So you get all the combo pieces here, and they're all essential, and you put them all into a deck, and you're like halfway done with building a deck, and it's like easy. It's like super fun to play too. Okay, next up on our list of essential ninja cards is Hurricane Technique. Hurricane Technique is often run as a 1 of or maybe a 2 of in constructed lists, namely because of its really powerful cycling effect. And it's not really cycling, replayability. Maybe that's the right way to say it. It pitches yellow. It costs 1, which is a little different. Running a 1 cost in Katsu, you sometimes do that. We'll talk about some more of those in a second. It attacks for 4 on a base stat, and it says combo. If Rising Knee Thrust was the last attack this combat chain, Hurricane Technique gets +1, go again, so it's a 5 with go again, and if it hits, put it into your hand, which means you can play it again, which is gross. Now, the second time you play it, the previous attack the combat chain was Hurricane Technique, so you wouldn't get the +5 and go again effect. You would just attack for 4 again, but because you have this threat where if your opponent doesn't block 5, which is sort of an awkward number because you can't just play like a red Sink Below to block Hurricane Technique. You have to block 5 instead of 4. If they don't just block 5 for this, or overblock, considering that you might buff it with Ancestral Empowerment, then you just get to attack with it again for 4, or save it and do this whole combo again if you can play a Rising Knee Thrust before it. So because of that cycle ability, you find this in upper level constructed decks. Now, because Hurricane Technique is in the deck and because it's essential, I would consider it essential. We're also calling Rising Knee Thrust essential. And Rising Knee Thrust, I'll go and put that on the screen as well. Rising Knee Thrust, doesn't matter what version you're looking at, it's always going to cost 0. It's a common, so it's got a red, yellow, and blue versions. It says it attacks for 3, 2, or 1, which is pretty low base, but it says combo. If a leg tap was the last attack this combat chain, Rising Knee Thrust gets +2 attack and go again. So it's either a 5, 4, 3 attack, or with Go Again. If you play leg tap. And of course, we should also mention leg tap. Again, this is why it's weird to talk about Ninja, because if we say one of these combo finishers is essential or often found in higher level, more streamlined decks, then we're also saying that the other pieces to the combo line are essential as well. So leg tap is actually a really good, decent little card. Leg tap does 1 damage, or sorry, it costs 1 to play, and it does 4 damage, 3 damage, or 2 damage. Based on the red, yellow, or blue, and it's just straight up 4/3/2 with Go Again. Okay, so that's a solid card anyway. You see those kinds of cards in a variety of different decks, but if you're gonna play Rising Knee Thrust and by virtue of playing that get the trigger on Hurricane Technique, well then you're gonna want to have leg taps around as well. So those are very popular possible kinds of cards, which also leads me to say, if you're playing the combo line of Rising Knee Thrust and you're playing leg tap, you might as well include Blackout Kicks as well. Blackout Kick is another way to finish the Rising Knee Thrust combo line, and it says it costs 1 as well, and it says if Rising Knee Thrust was the last attack this combat chain, Blackout Kick gets +3. So it's either 7, 6, or 5 attack, which is just super good. Those cards are good. They all fit together, and this is kind of why it's weird to talk about Ninja and Essentials list, because you got to get your hands on like combo lines rather than just like a couple of specific cards. Now I will say for this one, Blackout Kick in particular, oftentimes it's really in constructed lists, it's really just like a one of. So you can consider it not essential if you want to, but it is played fairly often. They'll include like 1 or 2 copies of the red Blackout Kick in a lot of like top 8 lists that you can find on the website, by the way, if you go to fabtcg.com. So this is a consideration that you should make, whether or not you want to include Blackout Kick in your list, but I am going to include that just because it's a separate finisher to Hurricane Technique, to that combo line that goes with it. And I already mentioned Surging Strike and Whelming Gust Wave when I talked about that whole combo line. Those I think are essential and do make up a majority of the deck, because you include like 2 or 3 of each copy depending on what kind of distribution of resources that you want to include within your decks if you're playing Classic Constructed. Now, if you're not, then you may just run like head jabs, that sort of thing. But I think with Welcome to Rathe, I think you have to think a little bit more Classic Constructed style, because I think that was their goal on the outset of this release of the first product with Welcome to Rathe. It was all about Classic Constructed because they hadn't announced Blitz yet. So finally we come to the last card that we're going to talk about, and this is a very, very good one across all formats, across all heroes in the class of Ninja, and that's Flick Flack. Flick Flack is the Ninja defense reaction. It costs 0, so you can pitch it and do things with Kodachi. It defends for 4, 3, or 2, but it gives your next defending combo card +2 defense. That is incredibly powerful. It doesn't sound powerful, but if you can play a Flick Flack, block all their damage out, and then they play another attack, and then you take a single card with combo on it, and you block that. Normally it would block 5 for the or 3 for the next attack, but now it's blocking 5. So you're basically playing like a defense reaction level block for a single card, and it could be any card. So it just literally applies to any combo card in your hand. So that is really, really good. This gets around a whole bunch of different archetypes and different classes damage outputs by just playing a single copy of Flick Flack. It's a really good card. This is by far perhaps the most, out of all of these cards, it may be the most essential card on the list, and I think it is. Yeah, it's crazy. Flick Flack is probably the most played Ninja card across all across all heroes and across all formats. So grab yourself a Flick Flack or 2 or 9 because they're rares and you can get, you know, like 3 reds, yellows, and blues, and just jam those into some decks. Now, you may not need to run all 9. In fact, most people don't, but definitely consider putting those into the deck because it's a really powerful piece, and it keeps you alive as a ninja. So that's the essentials list for the Ninja class. Tell me what you think. What did I miss? Let me know in a comment below what cards should also be included on this list, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for the support of getting that number above me up to where it is now. I'm super pumped, and hopefully as the mail comes in over the next few days, should be able to announce when we can go live and do a stream and celebrate the 3,000 subscriber mark and give some stuff away, because I want to give you guys some stuff. By the way, if you haven't watched that video, you should go and watch that video. If you want to be in the giveaway, you just got to be a subscriber and you got to leave a comment on that video, and that's really about it. More details in the subscriber video. I'll put a link in the description so you can go and watch that and become a part of this beautiful community. And I would love for you to be a part of this community with me. As always, everybody, thanks for watching.